another episode of Pulse Let's Talk. And as you can see today, we're talking against rape. So this is something that has been very rampant in our country. We've also heard of other gender-based violence cases, and we thought it would be best for us to address it today. And we have very lovely guests joining us. I will let them introduce themselves and tell you what they do before tuendelee na conversation. So karibuni, let's start with you.
Thank you, Sherry. My name is Beth Kawira. I am a Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights Advisor with YWCA Kenya. That is Young Women's Christian Association. YWCA Kenya is an non-governmental membership organization that works towards empowering young women and girls. And we work actually across all the counties in Kenya.
Okay.
And we are currently implementing quite a number of projects, which includes sexual and reproductive health and rights, which is basically why I'm here today. Okay. And that project aims at enlightening, or rather sensitizing young people with information on their sexual health and rights and their reproductive health and rights. And with this project, we aim the end goal of this is, to end teenage pregnancies, early child marriages, female genital mutilation, and basically all forms of gender-based violence.
Okay.
And at YWCA, we also implementing a project on climate change that is to improve the youth resilience on climate change risks. And also countering violent extremism. Basically, we are having so much on, like I said, empowering young women and girls.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Nawewe Jay.
So thank you, Cheryl. I am Pauline Juma, and I introduce myself first by calling myself a mother, because I am a mother to two amazing boys. Nice. And I'm the founder of Rebirth of a Queen organization. It's a community-based organization that was started in Kibera, and then we moved to Kajiado West when we opened our shelter. So we are currently running a shelter that supports teenagers and children victims of gender-based violence. So that is rape, defilement, child abuse, early marriages, and just giving our children and teenagers a safe space to be themselves and to heal without judgment, and to rise with love. And I am a storyteller. I love storytelling, and I do storytelling to sensitize on rape. I speak about rape as if it's a daily food, because I believe it's a high time that we speak about it. We speak about it, we shame the perpetrators, and we end the culture.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. So as we've said, kwenye comment section, you can be able to ask us anything, and even just take part in some of the points that we'll be bringing up, or some of the discussions that we'll be having today. So feel free, if you need any help from any organization in your meza kusema pia, you can be able to ask and get clarification on that. So we can see people have already joined. Thank you. So first of all, let's start by identifying the different types of rape that is there, so that in case somebody has been a victim, or in case you encounter, you would know what type of rape it is. So maybe if we start with the fact that there's strange rape, and there's a stranger rape and acquaintance rape. Maybe if you tell us the difference between these two.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Stranger rape is when you're raped by someone that, as the name indicates, a stranger, someone that you don't know. Yeah. And acquaintance is someone that you already know. And most of the time we find that these are the most cases here in the country or in Kenya, because you find that you gain so much trust with that person, and you feel like, this is someone I know, this is someone I trust, na hawezi ni rape. So most of the times you find that those cases are the most here in the country, and they are also the most reported. But unapata kuna shida pia, like when unataka kusema, now I'm not going to report about this person because I know them. Unaogopa because uko like, huyu mtu ninamjua, maybe I will be judged. Especially currently unaona sana tunapata hizi cases za rape zinakuwa pia ni relatives, ama someone in your family, someone who is close to you. So that is what I would say about the acquaintance rape. And stranger rape hivyo tu mtu haujui. But sana tunasema rape ni rape, whether it's a stranger who's raped you, whether it's an acquaintance, rape is rape, and it should end.
And I think another thing about people not reporting on that is also the fact that there's an article or some story I was reading where this girl was actually raped by the dad, and when she brought it up with the mother, the mother thought it will be embarrassing to the family.
Yes.
Or maybe the dad is a council elder or nimse wa church anajulikana, and the parents who you're reporting to anaona ni kama itakuwa aibu to the family.
Exactly.
And that is why it's kind of diluting the cases that are being reported, the acquaintance rape, right? Yeah, you can also take us through date rape. I don't know if you know about the date rape. Ile nye kuna some romantic relationship that is behind it. Yeah.
So I'll just start by saying that rape is sex without consent.
Yeah.
Full stop. Whether I'm in a relationship with you, if you want sex from me and I say no, and you go ahead and force yourself into me, that is rape. If a man does not want sex and a woman goes ahead and force herself into the man, that is rape. And so whether it's in a romantic or strange or acquaintance, I always believe it's just rape. Yeah.
And I have a question. Why is it so hard for, I don't know if it's for the victims to report, let's say like spouse rape. Why do you think it's hard, mostly in Kenya? Why is it hard for the victims to report? And also why is it hard even for the people who should help to bring it out, as opposed to now the stranger rape and acquaintance rape as we've talked about it?
Yeah. Okay, talking about the spousal rape, or rather the marital rape.
Yeah, marital rape.
Yes, it's you know, in our culture, it's so hard for someone to believe that you were raped by your husband, ama you were raped by your wife. It's like, kuna ile tu, like, if it's your husband or your wife, there is no rape involved. But truly, Sherry, there is spousal rape and marital rape. As my friend has said, rape is rape, because if I have not consented, whether it's my husband, ameniambia, like, anataka we become intimate, na mimi nimekataa, then he should not force himself, whether ni husband, whether ni wife. You know, these things, if you force yourself, then it becomes rape, and it is against the law, whether we are married or not, whether we are dating or not, it is against the law, and it is actually not encouraged. So as we say, it's always good, you know, kata kama ni marriage, just talk nicely to your spouse, don't force them, just avoid. Na kama hajiski. And regarding the consent, actually, if ninaweza kuja nikwambia yes, I want sex, na bado niseme nime change mind, no. You should not take that as a yes. Yes, I said yes at first, but I have said no. It's always good for us, you know, to respect other people's decisions, because actually, if it's rape, how do you even enjoy it? You see?
Yeah. So just a disclaimer for those of you who are maybe joining us or will be joining us later, is that, first of all, on this panel, we are not victim blaming. We are here to discuss about how we are trying to end the rape culture, mostly in Kenya. And also another thing, it is not a gender fight. We're not saying men are not being raped. We are talking about the victim and the perpetrator. Exactly. Whether the victim is a man or a woman, what we want is just this evil act. I think it's high time that we've also spoken up about it. We've seen other people talking about it digitally, and even people protesting, and other people even putting up other measures that should be stricter. And later on, we'll be able to also engage you and ask you a few questions from the audience to let us know. So this is just the disclaimer that we're not victim blaming. We are here to talk about the end of the rape culture in Kenya, and also it's about the victim and the perpetrator. So msione ni kama we're leaning against one side. We're just here to end this evil act. So moving forward, I think another thing that I would like us to talk about, in as much as I know will bring a lot of controversy, is that I would like us to talk about some measures that we can take in case in that situation, or to avoid being in that situation. Now, another disclaimer is that I know the thing that we should be talking about is rapists should stop raping. But we were earlier saying that in case you can be able to prevent something, you better prevent it than cure the problem. So there are some measures I also compiled. I'll also let my guests to also let us in on some of the measures that they think you can use to prevent yourself from such a situation. And also you from the comment section, you can tell us what are some things maybe you've tried and has worked, or you've ever been told while growing up, or can just help anybody who's watching us during today's session. So I don't know if we start with mine.
Yeah, we can start with ours.
Okay, yeah. So tell us some of the measures that you think somebody can use to prevent themselves from this situation.
Yeah, and first maybe to emphasize on what Sherry has said, we are not advocating for rape, but we are advocating for end of rape.
Yes.
Regardless of how it happened. You know, sometimes people might say that, she was dressed inappropriately, that's why she was raped. Or maybe she brought herself to me, or he brought himself to me. Because now you're saying it can be either a man or a woman. And that is what we are trying to, demystify those misconceptions that are supporting, the rape culture. But as we said, it's something that you can prevent. Prevention is actually better than cure. And if it's something that you can prevent, maybe you have foreseen it, you have seen it in advance, and you can prevent it. It's always good to take that measure. And one of the measures I would actually say, talk about is to avoid, these blind, tutazita blind dates, easy dates na strangers wenye hatujui, sana inakuja na trust. Tusitrust watu sana, especially people that we don't know. And if we don't, go to these secluded places with strangers or people we don't know, then tuna minimize the chances of, tuseme kukua raped, either a man or a woman, as we said. Na pia, tuseme kama, it's something for us to end this thing or to prevent it's always good to speak up. What I usually encourage people is, if you are a victim of this, or you have known someone who has undergone through this, it's always good to speak up. If we speak up about these things, then zitakuja kwa light, that zitaeza kuend. Let's take, for example, a case of yesterday's case, where we saw a 4-year-old was defiled by her stepdad. And that thing was all over social media. Now, other cases which have been all over social media, now because they are being brought to light, people can speak about them and people can actually advocate for the end of them. And also to urge, the governing bodies. It's always good to take stiffer measures or penalties towards these sexual offenders. If, for example, a case is reported and nothing happens, then people fear to report these cases. They are like, hata nikienda tu polisi hakuna kitu watafanya. So if we see actually stiffer penalties being given to these offenders, na wanatekiwa into action, then people will talk about this, na itaeza kuend. Yeah, baby.
I will just want to say, number one, measures we can take to end rape. I think it's a high time the judicial system, the community, and even ourselves, we work together to end rape. Number one, and this is what I tell to every teenager and child survivor. You were not raped because of your clothing. You were not raped because of your personality. You were raped because that person is a rapist, and it is not your mistake. I keep telling a victim or any survivor, remove the blame from yourself. That is the beginning of us finding justice. And just like she has said, we need to speak about it. It's a high time we speak about rape. I speak about rape in a community that is very conservative. And they're like, no, there's no rape in our community. But I tell them, if a 60-year-old man marries a 10-year-old girl, what do you think that is? We call it child marriage just to, to sugarcoat it, but it's rape. And another thing I think will, as a person, there's a time I would honestly speak as a young woman. We foresee rape. I would speak it as a young woman because for us also to end rape, we need to be very authentic with ourselves and to be very authentic even with what we say. I would use an example of, it happens a lot to, I don't know if it's to any young woman out there who's advocating for change, but sometimes you book an appointment with someone. I'll use an example. You book an appointment with someone. It's an appointment on a weekday. This is a professional or an official appointment. Can we meet on Tuesday? Yes, I suggest 1 p.m. We can meet maybe on Java because that is an open space. And then this man goes ahead and on Tuesday, they at 12 p.m. they tell you, no, Pauline, is it okay we meet at 9 p.m. in a certain hotel? What do you do as a young woman?
No, you say
know,
no.
that is not an official, it's not an official hour, and you say no, and you see that is a way of you preventing yourself from hurting yourself in future. So I think it starts with us as men and women.
Yeah.
Take a step that you can take, but to say it all, rape will end when we call upon rapists.
Yes.
To end it.
Yeah. And that's the initial point. Men and women stop raping people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the first measure that we can take. Any rapist who's watching us, or if you know any rapist, that's the first measure we're advocating. Stop raping people. Yeah. And I think I will add on to it. I don't know if you had more, or I can say mkifikiria zingine. So for me, I came up with a few, which, as I've said, the first one is men and women stop raping.
Exactly.
Stop raping. That's the first measure I would say. Another thing is you should be aware of your surroundings. In as much as, let's say, you see there are some situations like when you're in uni and labda umeamba twende bash. Now you only know the person who's taking you. Najua tu ubeshte yangu. And you go to a house, and I know this is very, says it's very common because hakuna kwenda kwa maclub, cafe is at 8. Maybe you're still living your life. So even if you're in that house, you should know your surrounding. In case anything happens, how will I get out of here? Or I think it is a gift to read a room. I've seen it in a meme online. It is a gift to read the room.
The sixth sense.
Yeah, it's like your sixth sense. Ukiingia kwa bash, start learning a few people. Unaanza kuona labda ni mtu sensible in the way anaongea. Huyu seem sensible ama pia anashukisha drink kushukisha. In case of anything haiwezi kukusaidia. So it's good to read your surrounding and just know what if something happens? How will I get myself out of this situation? Another thing is, this is a point I saw actually online, which I didn't even think of it in the first place. And it's have your house keys in hand before you reach your door to avoid fumbling for them to get inside. So it's, for me, it made sense in that sisi madame, in our handbags, you know, we carry everything. And at times kids zinaweza potelea uko ndani, and maybe you're getting home late, and just that moment ukitafuta maki, an evil person might take advantage of that moment and just attack at that time. So at this point, I think ni ile kama home kwako iko a few meters ahead, anza kutafuta hizo keys. Just have them kwa mkono. Ukifika ni kufungua kuingia na kufunga teba, ujifungie ndani. Then there's also have your first dates in public places, as she has said, and also in official times. Mi mambo ya usiku huwezi. If I don't know you, hata heri twende Uhuru Park. I've never been to Uhuru Park, but I'd rather be somewhere where hata nikiwika hivi, 1 or 2 people can come to my help. Not those secluded places. Hata kama it's someone I really like, for the first stages, I'd personally just advocate for public spaces. Then another thing is limit your alcohol intake with someone you don't know well. So this, someone you don't know well and even someone you know. Because you see at times, we've talked about acquaintance rape. But at times when you're intoxicated is where you lose your judgment, ability. Or also that's when
you become vulnerable.
Yeah, you become so vulnerable. You become so vulnerable, and the predator gets the chance to attack. So if you can limit your intake, your alcohol in places that you're not comfortable with, though I'm not sure if this will cut across even with acquaintances, because kuna watu labda mmezoea kukunywa now, and it's just that one moment that they decide to strike, and you never saw it coming. then yeah, I think those are the measures mainly come up with.
Yeah. It's always good to prevent, but bottom line, there is no reason for rape.
Yeah, there's no
Hata kama tumeenda in a secluded place, don't rape me.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
Yes.
So also we've let me read some comments before to endelay.
Okay.
Ochi Jagem asks, why WCA contacts, please? We'll be able to pin them kwa comment on how you can get them even on their website. We'll get that qua one of the comments. Then Ochi is asking, do they have a safe space for men?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I would like to answer Ochi.
Yeah.
At YWC, actually in all our branches, we have physical safe spaces. And in these safe spaces, survivors of rape, or rather gender-based violence, come together, whether it's a woman or a man, they come together and talk about these issues, about their experiences. And even in those safe spaces, we use art. You know, we say that art is a therapy. And as we offer psychosocial support in those safe spaces, we want to take that person through a healing process, a psychological healing process. So in those safe spaces, we have groups of young women and men who come together and share their stories. I can share my story, for example, of how I survived rape. And that story can encourage someone else who did not know how to handle their experience after the rape. So in short, yes, we have physical safe spaces, and it's both for men and women. And also to add on that,
yes,
due to the pandemic, we know that there is a limitation in, going to these physical safe spaces. So we have also digital safe spaces. And with that, I would like to say that we have an SRHR and mental health app, which you can easily find in the Google Android Play Store. And in this app, actually, it can give you all the psychosocial support you want, and it also has referral systems. So when you feel like you have these mental health issues, because rape can bring mental health issues, you can go there and get all the information. And also, if you like, visit the physical safe spaces.
And what's the name of the app?
It's a YWCA app. If actually you go to the Google Android Play Store, you will just search YWCA app and you'll find it.
Okay.
Yes.
So definitely this has, I think it has been a very good innovation on your side.
Yes.
With the fact that you can't come physically now, even with the third wave and things getting crazier. And also we have people who might be confined or locked down with their perpetrators and they can't do anything about it. So I think that's a really nice thing to have an app.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Kaduyu Michael says, yes, I would like to concur with Beth that majority of rape is mostly done by people known to the victim, as statistics say during the COVID-19 period has proven. And that also brings us to the fact that sometime last year when we were going through the first lockdown, I think there's also a rise in gender-based violence cases, right? Because there are people who are locked down by the perpetrators. And maybe they're not doing it once or twice, and there's nowhere to find help. And I don't know, is it the same? Did you guys also
Yeah, you see, last year, according to the Ministry of Health, between mid-March and June, the cases had risen to over 5,000. Within that short period of time. And those are the cases that were reported. And we know that many times these rape cases are not reported. So imagine at that short time, reported cases were over 5,000. And that was mid-March and June. And those cases have been on the rise. And we are not actually including the ones that were not reported. So you can imagine with this pandemic, where people are locked down and with the prolonged closure of schools, parents actually leave their kids with people and they're like, that's the uncle, that's someone I can really trust. Of course you trust your family members, but it's always good to know the surrounding, to understand the surrounding where you left your kid, and also to train, your kid on these issues. As YWCA, when we sensitize our young people, we want them to have, knowledge so that they can make informed decisions on these issues. Because if someone doesn't know, some people don't even know what is rape. and they don't even know whether that is rape. So if you give them the information, then they understand, oh, this is wrong. And if I do this, actually I can get help. And that is basically what we do, creating awareness, sensitizing them, and equipping them with the relevant knowledge.
Yeah.
And on the issue of gender-based violence, which is actually under Sexual Reproductive Health and Rights, as I said before, we urge the people to advocate for SRHR services, which are accessible, affordable, and inclusive. And in these with these SRHR services, you can walk in. We want young people to walk in freely to the government hospitals. And if I'm a victim of rape and I really want to go and get that counseling, if I go there to that government hospital, will I get that service?
Yeah.
So that is what we want, the government and other stakeholders, including civil society organizations and other stakeholders, to ensure that this is there, accessible, affordable, and inclusive for young people to access.
Yeah, and also I think to add on to that, also parents, during this time when your kids are home, learn to believe your kids.
Yeah.
If your child comes and reports something, you better just have a look into it. Do not usipuuze. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly.
And once you learn to shut off this kid or to show that you don't believe them, they'll not be open about some things at all. So we also see Sue Chams says, my YWCA hosted me in 2010 when my mother-in-law used to mistreat me in Maringo. This interview is so personal. Say hi to Beatrice, Maggie, and the whole salsa team.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the art therapy that we usually offer. Yeah. Nice. So we have salsa classes. We use poetry, spoken word, skits, to take these gender-based violence survivors through a psychosocial healing. Nice.
Ward Rose says, I'm a gender defender, but it's evidently clear that much concentration is on women and girls. Our men are losing their positions in the society, and that's why in most cases, any violence ends in killing, because our boys are feeling like they're not listened to or protected. All that is left for them, ni jela. It's high time we start empowering our men, and if possible, have organizations like FIDA that fights for men's rights. So Ward Ross, in case you're joining us now, we had also said that for today's topic, we're not concentrating on women and girls. We're concentrating on everybody who might fall victim or who has fallen victim before. Whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, all we're here for is we're trying to end the rape culture in Kenya. So we also hope that there'll be more organizations that will be able to also protect you. But in case you have any question or any clarification you need, feel free. We're talking about everybody here. It's all inclusive. Yes.
Also, I pose a challenge to every man that brings across such conversation. It's called gender-based violence. It's not a women-based violence. It's called gender-based violence. That means it affects both male and female. As a man, you've seen the change. What are you doing? We've been raised in a society where we are told for you to change something, you need to change 1 million people. But it starts with one person. It starts by us stop telling men, men are strong, do not cry. And this is a conversation I started today, and I told someone, a man is a human being who has feelings, emotions, desires, and needs. The moment we understand that and remove the cliche of men are strong, men akilia lilie ndani alafu nende nampe ulcers, they become suicidal, and at the end of the day, that is why you find it men are dying at committing suicide. For me as a woman, if today I get angry, I would literally tell it off. If I don't want to speak, I would rather just write a poem. I would rather write a story. I would rather just go speak to someone. What about if we just start by changing the little things? And I keep saying, as a person running a shelter for girls and small children, so that is both genders, my purpose on earth is to raise strong queens. But I'll not be part of raising strong queens for broken kings. So this is the togetherness. Let's come together and stop advocating for men-based violence and women-based violence. It is gender-based violence.
Yeah, definitely. Then we see Oyugi Roda saying, I can attest to using the YWCA Kenya Mental Health app. It's a confidential digital safe space that helped me. Keep it up. As a young woman, I feel empowered.
Wow.
Thank you for that clarification. In case there's anybody who's been wondering, hey, your app, can I trust it? We've had specific people, for those who've gone physically, wameongea, wamesema, and also those who have used the app have also talked about it. Okay, so Kaduyu says, is it possible to get a definition, a correct definition of rape for the sake of clarity? So I think I have I have a document here.
Yes.
Where I will use what the law in Kenya says to clarify on that. So it's on the Sexual Offences Act, number 3 of 2006. Anyway, you can, in case it's not the right one, please correct me, missing to a law. So it says, a person commits the offense termed rape if he or she, so as you said, it is gender-based.
Yes.
Where he or she intentionally and unlawfully commits an act which causes penetration with his or her genital organs by the other person, which the other person does not consent to the penetration. Higher. Also, the consent is obtained by force or by means of threats or intimidation of any kind. In this section, the term intentionally and unlawfully has the meaning assigned to it. A person guilty of an offense under this section is liable upon conviction to imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 10 years, but which may be enhanced to imprisonment for life. For life.
Yes.
So I hope that is clear enough for you according to the Kenyan law, because I didn't want to mix my words alafu mkuje mseme sheria lisema nini. Yeah, but definitely that is what the law says. So in case you unlawfully and intentionally force penetration with somebody who hasn't given consent, that is definitely rape. Yeah, and as you have heard, it is imprisonment for a term which is not less than 10 years, but which may be enhanced to life
imprisonment.
And I think we can also add manipulation. If I have a company today and I tell a young man, for me to give you this job, you have to sleep with me, I am a rapist.
Yeah.
Full stop.
That is actually what we call a sex by deception.
Okay.
Fraud. You deceive me.
You deceive me,
Or you deceive me towards having sex with you.
I think that is also under the threat and intimidation part where we've read on the law part. Okay, so I hope we've been able to answer you, vile unasema, Kaduyu, correctly. You've said you want a correct definition.
Yes.
Yeah. So Guido Benjamin says, many cases of rape take place in slum areas. Majority of them go unreported because they are perpetrated by close people, including relatives.
Exactly.
I'm glad that we have organizations like YWCA, Juma's CBO to help our generation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Benjamin. If you have any questions that you would like to tell us, or if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, definitely send them through. So now I have a question where, let's say somebody has been raped, unfortunately. What are the things that this person should do? And who are the first people or the first person that this person should report to?
Okay. Yes, actually that is quite a good question, because our followers need to understand what you should do when you're raped, or rather, who should you call? I will say that the very first thing that you should do after a rape incident is to ensure that you move away from that place. Get a safer place, first of all. If you're in an incident where, let's say, if it's here where I'm raped, you know, I can't do much when I'm in the same place. It's always good to move to a safer place, and make sure you call someone that you trust, or someone who is close to you, and you're like, if I call this person, they are really going to help me.
Yeah.
As a YWCA, I said we sensitize the community health workers, or rather community health volunteers, who we also call gender defenders. So in your community, if this happens to you, these people are equipped with enough information or knowledge on how to handle those cases. So it's always good, you know, to call those people so that they can guide you on the right procedure to take. Or rather, if you don't have their number, which it's always good to know community health volunteers in your areas, you can call your relative, your friend, or someone that you know. Then it's always good to go and report these to the police station. When actually the good thing is that most, if not all, police stations have a gender desk. Yes, and these people, they are also equipped with knowledge on how to handle this. Actually, that's the good thing now, that the gender desk people will accord the victim the necessary support, and will also work with them from there. So after you report and fill a P3 form, it's always good to now go to the hospital. And this also depends on the severity of the case. You know, sometimes you will find that, like, it's always good to run to the hospital before going to the police station. Ideally, it's good to report the case, get the P3 form, and go to the hospital. And this should happen within 72 hours. And the reason as to why we say this is so that you can be given timely medical attention. If, for example, they want to prevent pregnancy, then that works within that time frame. And also you can be given PEP to, you know, reduce the chances of you being infected with HIV and AIDS. And also within that time, you know, kuna ile bado evidence iko.
Yeah.
And then you're also advised, as you head to the police station, or rather to the hospital, there are some things that you should not do, including do not shower or do not bathe. Because it is said that if you shower or bathe, then you're clearing the evidence. So when you go to report, akuna ile evidence, ina reduce actually the chances. And kama tuseme mtu alikuforce and hujachana nywele, nguo zimeraruka, just go as you are. That is good evidence. Do not shower, and if possible, do not visit the loo. You know, when you go to the hospital, they need the specimen, they need vile tu iko as it happened, so that, you know, your case can be weighty. So after then, you know, you have all these people to take you through that. But at the end of it all, you need what we call psychosocial support. Victims, or rather survivors of rape, after it happens, many of them are left, you know, judging themselves. Was it my fault that this happened? How are people going to judge me? You know, all that, and it gives you trauma, or rather mental health issues. So after all is done, and now the police case now has started, and those people are doing their work, always visit, you know, these safe spaces, like we said with YWCA. And also Juma told us that you also have safe houses.
Safe house.
Yeah, as you know, we have this network of safe houses where we can where we can refer our victims. And sometimes, you know, it's hard for you to go back home if it was your relative who raped you, or if it's someone that you've been staying with. It's hard to go back. So that's why we encourage them to go to the safe houses. Visit the safe spaces now for psychological support. These rape survivors need to be walked through for them to heal. Whether physically, emotionally, they need to be taken through that step at a time. And as I said, you know, most of the times these rape survivors fear to report these cases because of fear of intimidation and fear of judgment. And rather, they are like, will this case actually go anywhere? So they are left, you know, with that trauma, with that mental health issues. And that's why then we call for those psychosocial supports.
Okay. There's a toll-free number you had told me about.
Yes, well, there is this toll-free number. It's free, actually. And research says that of late, there have been so many cases being reported through that number. It's 1195. Yes, 1195, and it's free of charge. And when you call that number, you will actually get all the support that you need.
Okay, so 1195.
1195. free of charge.
Also, I can testify to the 1195. We've worked together in a number of cases where they refer survivors to us, to our safe house. But when it comes to rescuing, this is what we do as a shelter. Sometimes we receive a call on the worst days. You receive a call, and that is a victim who has just been found. She is raped, and she has all her clothes or everything. You know, the first thing is to take her to the police station. You report it, then to the hospital for medication, and then the doctor will fill the P3 form. And what we do is to make sure she has the medication. We have the police report. For us, the police report is always important because they are children, and you know, you'll have cases afterwards. Why are you hosting children in your center? For us, we get the letter first from the police that we are going to have this girl at our shelter, and then at the shelter, that is when we walk the girl through the process of healing. You know, first you just have to tell them it was not your mistake.
Exactly.
You're going to be okay. And to be honest, this is always one of the worst things I say as a social activist, that sometimes healing is the best justice. Trust me, we have cases, and 90% of them don't go anywhere. 90% of them, perpetrators are released on bonds, and they go back to the village. They go ahead and do worst, because you made him or her waste time going to the court. They are going to make sure you're paying. So sometimes it's one of the worst words I tell survivors, that healing is the best justice. But sometimes I say, when you heal as a person, because it's a journey, it will never end. It will, trust me, it will never end. Being a survivor, especially of rape, you know, we think that rape is just about sex. It's beyond that. It's beyond my dignity as a person. It's beyond your personality. And also, I can attest that rape does not only happen with the sex. There are words that they tell survivors. There are words that they tell victims. If you dare speak, we are going to kill your mother. So this child will live all her life knowing that if one day I'm ever speaking, my mother will be dead. You are told you're useless. So you live your life knowing you're useless. So at a safe space, we offer that. I call it a family, just assuring you that it was not your mistake, number one. Number two, healing is in your hand, so take it with a lot of grace, with a lot of love, and make sure you're growing out of it a stronger person.
And as she said, I think I can add on to that, where you're saying the healing is a process that might never end. It's because there's also presence of so many triggers in our community, in that even when I'm in that process, and maybe I hear of another case, that's a trigger. Or maybe the person, let's say the stranger who was the perpetrator was a tall, dark guy with beards. Every tall, dark guy I see will be a trigger. If the person had a deep voice, any deep voice I hear is a trigger. So definitely it is a process, and I think once you also get that, it will make the journey easier for the victims, right? So another thing I wanted to ask, wait, let me watch it to our comments. Okay, so Kaduyu says penetration is the key word that needs amendment in the case of women raping men. How do you prove as a man that you were penetrated? I get your point. That's a really strong point. I think it should be amended. But I think once the law is involved, they'll be able to understand what really transpired, in case it wasn't a sodomy case. So Mohammed says this is a good show. Thank you for tuning in. Okumu says this is a good piece of information to most of us. Thank you. Thank you too for joining us. If you have any sentiments you'd like to share with us, I'd be glad to read them out. Kibet Tobias says thanks for watching. We can see also some people still joining. And as we said, today we're talking against rape. We're trying to end the rape culture and at least put a voice out there for those who are voiceless. So I have a question for both of you. So what motivated both of you into devoting this as your either career path or things that you would like to do for the community? Who should we start with?
Okay, let me just go ahead and start. The reason why when I began, I said that I'll speak about rape even, I think even in my death, I'll speak about it because 2021 is my 11th year celebrating as a survivor. I celebrate because I have survived.
Okay.
I have lived through it. I have overcome triggers when I could, and I have lived the emotions when I couldn't. And also the fact that why I chose the space of teenagers and children, because as a teenager, no one believed in me. Everyone knew I was a rebel, and no one felt like I should be listened to. You understand? That is why I devote my life to teenagers. I speak against rape affecting teenagers and children, because the moment a 6-year-old child is raped, and you go ahead and say that we are going to have a family talk, I am 6 years. Why are you forcing me to forgive a perpetrator? You know, that is why I come out strongly to defend and to protect and to make sure the future of our children and teenagers in this country, they are safe. Because most of the times we come out and say we have a generation of teenagers that are rebels. And this is a conversation, a weird conversation that I had with one of the young teenagers I meet around. Pauline, nakusikianga tu naongea kuhusu rape kwa madem. Kwani unafikirianga ifanyikangi sisi kwa maboy? Kwanza mimi hakuna ile siku nitawahi choka kuhat wasichana. Hata mimi ni mtu alinihat. You understand? This is a young man, a young teenager who was sodomized when he was very little. And because we've said that men should not talk, you know, the best thing this young boy feels like he's going to bring out the pain in him is by hurting other people. And you know, if I don't speak about it, he will still do that. As much as I told him that, no, that is not the reason why you should go on hurting girls or raping girls. There is a way. But what motivates me each and every day of my life, it's the fact that I still believe we will raise a generation without rape. I still believe 10 years from now, my son will stand and say no to rape. I still believe that 10 years from now, there is a girl from my shelter who's going to be a judge, and trust me, no perpetrator will have it easy. I still believe there is a lawyer that is being raised somewhere, and that is a survivor that will defend every rape case that comes. So for me, my journey, Rebirth of a Queen, is always very personal. It begins with me, and then it goes to the girls that I rescue, and then to every teenager and child of this nation, because we assume they are children. Ananiambia nini? When a child goes to their mom, and you know, this is the words they use kwa slums. Mama, uncle alinifanyia tabia mbaya. Wewe, nyamaza. Hizo vitu zisisikike huko nje. Unajua ukisema hivyo baba yako ataniacha. A 10-year-old girl or a 12-year-old girl goes to the mother and tell her mama, daddy ananishikanga, saa zile umeenda ananifanyia tabia mbaya. And the mother goes ahead, wewe, ukijaribu kuongea, you know I am going to lose your father. You know, it's a high time we rise and advocate against it.
Yes.
As a woman, I don't need to defend my marriage at an expense of my child. What we need to understand, and I will say it again, rape is beyond sex. 11 years from now, and I can't wear a green dress. That is a trauma I have to deal with for the rest of my life, no matter how beautiful the dress looks like. No, I can't. 11 years, and I can't just have a conversation with someone, a man, in a private place, because that for me is a trigger. What if they ask for this? As a young woman who's an activist, as much as the world thinks that I'm so vocal, I was diagnosed with bipolar. People need to understand it is beyond that one-day event. It is beyond. There are days you wake up, you go to the bathroom, and you can't shower because you feel dirty. It's beyond. And you know, the last, I think, 1 month, it's been so hard for every survivor on social media. When you see it now, it's a battle between a man and a woman. So wrong. It is so wrong. So for me, it's a personal journey and a journey to every teenager and child of this nation and even to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 That's quite an interesting story, Pauline. Yeah. And I would say what inspires me, especially now working with Young Women's Christian Association, is giving voices to such young people like Pauline. You give them a voice. You encourage them, you empower them to stand up and speak. And when you see such confident young people coming up to speak against that, you're like, wow, now at least people have a voice. They can speak. They already know of these menace and how we can curb the menace and how to go about it. Yeah. And I will say that our YWCA, of course, with other CSOs, civil society organizations, the government and other stakeholders are really doing a lot when it comes to empowering people to speak up and also advocating for their rights. You know, human rights are gender equality is also a human right, which is fundamental, you know. And when people come up and speak about this and speak against rape like we're doing today, and hear of, you know, such young people coming up and speaking up and saying that this is what happened, and actually better off if they got justice and if they are healing, you're like, wow, this is something that we all wish for. Yeah. And as we are advocating, you know, for sustainable development goals, I would when we are talking about gender equality, that is SDG 5, I'm like, am I part of making this come true? Am I part of those who are contributing towards a justice world? So basically, I would say that when I see young people coming up, speaking up, following the right procedures, when the government are doing what they're supposed to do, when people are held accountable, and we are all living towards a justice world, it gives me self-fulfillment.
Okay. Yes. So I want to pose these two questions to our audience, and we will also answer to our capacity. Yes. The first one is, what do you think you should do in case you know a rapist who has not been prosecuted for it? What do you think should be done? Or what should you do in case you know someone who is a rapist and hasn't been prosecuted for it? I'll pose that to also you guys, and I'll also answer to what I think. And my second question is, what laws do you think should be passed in Kenya in regards to rapists? In our movement to end rape culture, because it's been a very loud conversation. Lately, people are speaking about it, people are defending others about it, others are calling out even others. So what types or what laws do you think should be passed in Kenya for these rapists? So those two questions. What should you do in case you know a rapist who hasn't been prosecuted for it? And what laws do you think should be passed? So I'll read some comments, then we will answer as we give you time. Pia kwenye comment section to be able to tell us. So Brainy Kid says, thank you for this information. It is very good that it's been talked about. It's very heartbreaking hearing from victims. Very true. Then Kibet asks, if a man is raped by a woman, how will you prove to police or courts that you are raped?
I would say I feel like now the country is going way better. We have a forensic medical something. I only know one person who does it. That is Dr. Kizi Shako. There is a process. There is a forensic medical process that can prove it.
Okay.
And also there's always evidence everywhere. If it's forced, we have your hair as a man, your clothes, maybe they are torn. And I believe there's also a way your penis can be checked.
Yeah, and actually to encourage men to speak up and report these cases. Do not fear that, now I'm a man, how is this actually going to be? Because I don't have evidence. Don't fear. Don't be limited by your thoughts that it is not going to go anywhere. Go and report. Go for that medical checkup, and there's actually a way the medical examination can prove. And with the police, they can always find a way. So speak up, report,
maybe we just put it so honestly. It's hard for men to go and report. You know, I have conversation and men tell me, "Sasa Pauline, mimi nenda kwa polisi naambia polisi manze nimerepia." You know, the police looks at you and anakuangalia kwanza na kucheka. Mwanaume, mwanamke, aje. Kwani pia wewe huku unataka? You understand? So I feel like also as a country, as a movement, and as people, we should also create safe spaces for men. You know, I tell a lot of my male friends, if you want us to go drink coffee and just allow you to cry inside a room, then just go ahead and cry. I won't judge you. Just go ahead and cry. I think we should create that safe space for men, and also men themselves to create that safe space. Because I've been in conversations where men ask another man, sasa wewe mwanamke anakufanyia kitu kama hiyo aje. You understand? It's all our collective responsibility for all of us to create that safe space for also men to speak out. And I think also if we can have, I don't know if we can have gender desks that is open to also hear from men, because trust me, it's hard.
I will say the gender desk at the police stations actually is not biased on women. It can help both. And as Pauline said, most of the times these men fear, intimidation. Ama kuambiwa, we ni mwanaume mgani. That's why it's always good to encourage men pia wao. Just speak up. Usikufe peke yako, because at the end of the day ukienda kujiua, hasara ni kwako. Ukienda kufanya vitu zingine hazifai. Ukiumia peke yako, hasara ni kwako. So just find a nice, a nice way of handling this. Talk to people who are close to you. Talk to people that visit these safe spaces, or rather these safe houses. Pia hapo utapata usaidizi. Ama tumia app. Kama unaogopa kwenda, chukua app. Angalia, jipe nguvu kama mwanaume, and you're like, okay, I will also go through this.
Hi, tunaona Paul Victor saying tuned in, watching from Standard Media Group. Thank you so much. Becky says she's late. Not really. Uzuri, when we are done, you'll be able to rewatch the live. But today we're talking against rape. We've been able to discuss a lot about it. We've talked about the different types of rape. We have spoken about some measures that you can take to prevent yourself. We've also talked about the statistics according to our current situation. They've been able to plug in their different organizations and how you can help yourself or somebody that might need the organization's help. We've talked about things that you should do and shouldn't do before and after you go and report a case, and also how you can reach some the community health workers in case you need any help.
And the toll-free number.
The toll-free number, which is
1195.
1195. They've also told us a bit on why this topic is a bit close to their heart. So at least nimeza kusaidia ku catch up. Now at the moment, what we're doing, Becky. At the moment, what we're doing, Becky, is we're asking, what should you do in case you know a rapist that hasn't been prosecuted for it? And what do you think, what laws should be put in place in Kenya to deal with rapists? So I feel like I've brought you up to speed till there. Then Phil Wanjiru says, interesting conversation. I have learnt a lot. First of all, before we come to the laws, can we have more trained and sensitive officers handle such cases at the stations? This is the first place victims go in their quest to report and seek justice. I agree with you, Phil. And it's in the moment where I've had a story where a lady has gone to report the husband. And the police, instead, they just dismiss her. And tell enda ukwe bibi mzuri, mbona unakuja kureport mwanaume.
Hiyo ni maneno ya nyumbani.
Hiyo ni maneno ya nyumbani, mbona unamnyima or something. And I feel Phil's comment. See what I did there? I feel Phil's comment in that we should train also the officers even at the gender desk. And even wale tu wenye hata watu wa traffic. Because at times maybe uko kwa gari with the perpetrator and you are trying to signal, because I saw there's some signal, I think ya mkono kufanya hivi. Even when you're walking past someone to show that I'm walking with the perpetrator but I can't say. Pia kulikuwa na ile video ya online ile ya kujifanya your ordering pizza. I think we should get more of that in Kenya. Then we see Guido says it is time for police forces to get trained on the effects of rape and how to address this issue with seriousness. The problem is not the law, but how we implement it and the negative perception surrounding rape. I think it's the same point, but definitely also our police have a lot to play in this. Okay, Paul Victor says the question tends to be tricky, but at my capacity, a rapist who is owned up by law, then that qualifies to take it at a personal level. I don't understand what you're saying. Because I have asked what you should do in case you know a rapist hasn't been prosecuted and what laws you think should be put in place. He says your question tends to be tricky, but at my capacity, a rapist who is owned up by laws, then that qualifies to take it at a personal level. Do you understand what he's saying?
I hope he doesn't mean that we should take it to deal na tuchukue sheria mikononi kama polisi wameshindwa. I feel maybe unaweza feel vibaya ukiona that huyo rapist bado anatembea tu kwa ground. Una feel you feel so bad and you're like mimi nitachukua tu sheria, of course, which is not encouraged.
One day I was doing a mentorship in Kibera in just one of the halls. It is a hospital, so it's a community hospital and everyone goes into the hospital. So I was just having a one-on-one with one teenager and you know just in some few minutes akanishika. Pauline, usiniache, usiniache. Pauline akitafadhali usiniache. You see, you look at her, she's so scared. Yani she wants to run away but she can't. And you know, I just looked around and I was like, someone has entered this room and the energy is not good. That is what I felt. And after some 20 minutes, a guy left. And you know, this teenager told me, alini rape. And anytime wanakutana kwa barabara, you know, Kibera has a lot of corners where we were raised. It has a lot of corners. You imagine he raped you and you walk in those corners and you meet them.
Yeah, so sad.
So to be honest, at this time, I feel like we should name them. We know victims, right? Why don't we know perpetrators? It's a high time we name them, and you know, to be very, sometimes a lot of people tell me, Pauline, you can be ghetto sometimes. Sometimes I tell people, if I really know a rapist and I can't do anything, I'll just take his picture, create a lot of posters and make them, and just put them everywhere.
And you know, that helps even for people who maybe I didn't know you ndo tabia yake.
Stay away.
So I will start having my instincts high when I'm around this guy. That helps. I've seen it being done also on social media, mostly on Instagram. And there's a page, I've forgotten the name of the page, where most perpetrators were being walikuwa nanikwa. Inaonyesha huyu, hii jina, anafanyanga hivi na hivi na hivi. Many girls have talked about it, bado hajabringiwa to nini, to face the law. Yeah, very true. And I can imagine the types of triggers that goes through for those who are just walking around like nothing happened.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's not even to the victims only, even to the families of the victims. Yeah, because sometimes they feel like we can't do anything. We are handling a case at this moment where a perpetrator feels so important to a point that he feels like he can hack anyone's phone, calls you to threaten you every time. Wewe ndo ulijifanya unachunga huyo msichana, wacha tuone mali utafika. You know, we've given them so much power. And this is what I tell the community. You know, we empowered the perpetrator to a point that they now feel so stronger. When you tell a victim you are raped because of your short skirt, so you're telling the perpetrator, when you meet any girl with a short skirt, rape them.
Sad.
And now we have men who are being raped while dressed well in their trousers. So
even
that
is in hijab.
In hijab. And you see, one of these days last year, I got so angry because I handled a rape case of a 2-year-old. And I looked at the perpetrator straight into his eyes and I told him, I was told at the age of 16, it was my short skirt. What did you see beyond the pampers?
Exactly.
You see, we've empowered the perpetrators in our society now that they feel, they feel that they have all the power in this world. It's a high time we take that power one by one. If we can do posters of them, if we can post them on all social medias and even have a segment in news where you just have all the perpetrators, I think it's time we take power from them.
Okay. Rosalind Murugi says, wow, Beth Kawira, watching you, girl. Good advice as always. Paul also says, I wish you talked about youths and ever-changing society that will help us manage the future. So, okay, I think this point is a bit misplaced. For today, we're talking about ending the rape culture, but we're obviously also sensitizing the youths. And also providing the safe spaces, as they've talked about it, for those who are survivors. Sue Cham says, rapist is a rapist. That's a dangerous species to live with humans. Waekwe huko animal orphanage, tuwaone kama wanyama na iwe funzo kwao. I think that's a law that should be passed. Yes. Brainy Kid says, watching from Ghana, I will see a trustworthy official from the high authority and make him face judgment. That is in case he knows a perpetrator who hasn't been brought to justice yet. So, I don't know. What do you think? What would you do if you knew a rapist?
Kwanza ningetaka kusema before hata sasa niseme about reporting that person. Ningetaka kuhimiza that your safety comes first.
Okay.
Sawa? Na unajua sometimes ninaweza ona so and so ni rapist. Na sasa niko all over, nataka kwenda unajua nina make ajue niko hapo ninaenda. Na sometimes hata kama tuna advocate ni vizuri kukua self cautious na take measures just take the right procedure, because the moment huyo mtu atajua that so Beth alienda amemwanika social media, Beth alienda, of course hata take lightly, yeye already ni criminal, na kama anaweza rape anaweza fanya vitu zingine beyond that. So it's always good to tread carefully, but vile nani Pauline amesema, now with this social media tunaona hizi cases zinakuja up to light, which is so good, because kitambo hizi cases zilikuwa zina happen, hazita reportiwa, hazita kwa social media, nothing happens. So yes, it's always good to report that person, but pia jikumbuke, just take measure. Vile tulisema take measure, enda umreport in a in a wise way, do pia yeye asikutekea advantage.
Now ukimpost social media, use a pseudo account.
Akijua like ulienda ukampost, definitely atakuwa on your neck, atakuwa kwa familia yako. Nyinyi mdo mnaenda, where is the evidence? Ni hata wewe naweza kufanya. There is this case now it's not on rape, but I just want to talk about vile nasema it's always good to take action. There is this case that there is a certain activist alikuwa so loud on FGM na alikuwa like naenda kukureport na unajua pale mbele nini alikuwa of course ana feel pain and all that. Unajua huyo mtu anamwambiaje, wewe ndo unashinda ukisema basi tunakujia mtoto wako. Anajua ni Pauline, sawa tunakuja, and they went to that mama's home to kukata msichana wake because yeye ndo ako kipaumbele pale. Anasema imagine huyo mama ali undergo mental health issues na trauma because anajaribu kusaidia society, but unajua ameenda pale mbele, ameadvocate, amesahau. Luckily enough, the mother didn't have girls because walikuwa determined kwenda kumfanyia hivyo mtoto wake anyamaze. So in that case ndo nasema hata kama tunaenda kureport our perpetrators, ni vizuri pia to take the right channel na tusi-expose pia kwa dangers. But bottom line, if you know that rapist, just report them, ama enda kwa wale CHVs, ama kwa mtu unajua atakusaidia. Just ask for the right way to do it. Because of course, hautataka kumuona pia. Juu unajua naye itaenda kwa polisi na wao ndo watateka, because pia utaitishwa evidence, you know, utaulizwa unajuaje. So the moment unaamua ku take up that, just include watu wengi wakupe advice, ujue the right way to take, na tusiwaache waende scot free.
Yeah, so lastly, I think, Mimi, the law that should be passed in Kenya in regards to rapists is once you're proven guilty that you're a rapist, you get castrated. So even if you're released, you will not have the tool. You will not. Imagine, because
I know,
what other tool will you use? And I'm so sure that process will teach you a lesson, and those who come after you, and even years and years to come. So anybody who is found guilty of rape should just be castrated. That's my point. And that's what I think should be done.
I am not adding anything.
So to call off the show, that's what I think should be done.
Rapists, mumesikia, just beware.
Judge somewhere. Rapists, you will not go scot-free.
Yes.
But anyway, just to wrap up the show, you can repeat where people can find you. How they can reach you in case they are in need of your services. You can just repeat it for our audience as we come to the end of our session.
Yes, you can visit our website, which is www.ywcakenya.org. That is .org. And you can also walk into our offices. We have our headquarters at Nairobi. And as I said, we work across various counties. We have actually 7 branches in the country. We have Meru branch, Kisii branch, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nairobi, Siaya, and Tana River. All that you can get YWCA Kenya. And support our work, be part of us, be our member as we empower young women and girls to actualize their potential and live fulfilled lives.
Okay, thank you.
So for us, you can reach us on our Facebook page, that is Rebirth of a Queen. You'll find all the contact information of how you can get help in case you need any help for a shelter that is for a teenager. It doesn't matter whether she's a mom or not, as long as she's a teenager or a child. You can reach out to us on our social media pages. We'll be able to help you where we can. And also you can check on our website, www.rebirthofaqueen.org. And also, you support our work, work with us in your own capacity, in your household. Advocate against rape. Let's have an authentic conversation with our children, with our brothers and sisters, with ourselves, and let's all create a movement that will end rape.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much. There's nothing more I can add to that. I would like to just thank everybody who's tuned in, everybody who's commented and engaged us on this session. And in our fight against rape, I'd also like to thank you guys for coming for today's session and to just let us pick your brain and also just give us a few pointers in regards to your careers. But thank you so much for Kila Mtu who's tuned in, everybody who's been part of this production as well. Thank you and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.